This is the state of rallies in Rise of Kingdoms. With the popularity of the state of garrisons video, I wanted to also take a moment to look over on the other side of the pond and discuss the state of rallies. Note that this is not comprehensive, and we'll cover just the base rally, and not anything crazy like Siege of Orleans or Warriors Unbound that have so many different rule sets. It is meant as a guide to what is currently the popular choice for pairing, equipment, and formations for each major troop type. Without further ado, let's get started. First, let's talk about cavalry marches. When it comes to cavalry marches, the main pair that is used is Justinian Nevsky. The two of them make an excellent pair with stacking defense debuffs, as well as great damage output on garrisons, with that huge skill damage boost from Nevsky on his 4th skill, which is actually quite massive. There is a slight drop off in counter rally viability because of Scipio Aemilianus and his ability to remove the defense debuff that both Justinian and Nevsky have. But given the standard counter wheel you see with infantry already countering cavalry, you probably weren't already anticipating Justinian Nevsky being a counter to Scipio Aemilianus. Against defenses, the pair does do well against most of the meta garrisons, but it does have some natural struggles against Gorgo, which is to be expected since it's a cavalry rally. It can struggle against Eleanor in some situations as well, but it's more a situation of who has the better positioning or better situation overall, rather than a straight counter. But overall, this is the best available rally pair for cavalry. Some alternatives do exist. Attila Nevsky is a very popular one as well, but they're mostly against Swarm, and 1v1 will tend to suffer greatly because they're not nearly as strong as the double defense debuff that Justinian Nevsky has. You can run either one primary, honestly. I see Justinian a little more often than Nevsky, but because Nevsky's skill tree access, you can really viably use either one. It's down to preference. For formations, your main formation is going to be Wedge for any pair that uses Nevsky, as you want to lean into that skill damage as much as possible, and Justinian benefits from it very well too. For gear, you'll want to stack as much health as possible, and you'll want to at least go to 2 out of 4 on your overall set bonuses when it comes to your Wasteland set. Depending on if you go for Season of Conquest items, you can go all the way up to 4 and get the counterattack damage. Or if you don't and you go up to Season of Conquest items, 2 out of 6 is also great. The choice is ultimately yours on that front. For accessories, I recommend the standard ring and horn to deal as much damage as possible, because the horn will give you more rage, and the ring is an all damage boost, so even if you are using that off Attila pair, you'll best be off using the Ring of Doom, which gives you 50% to bonus to all damage dealt, and 30% chance to gain extra rage. So in any case, these are your 2 best options, and you'll notice as a theme, generally speaking, these are the best options, because they're such great generalist options that are just broad in their scope, but effective nonetheless. Next, we're on to archers, and when it comes to archer rallies, Asher is king, no pun intended. He's incredibly solid, even with the newest infantry commanders on the horizon. The real debate when it comes to the archer rally meta is who to pair him with. The 2 main commanders you have to debate between are Henry and Liang. Henry is the more traditional option for 1v1, with his damage and solid tankiness being absolutely great for melting just about any defense, while being dangerous to try to swarm either. This is more traditional 1v1 optimized build for archers, and it's my personal favorite of the 2 options for Asher. The alternative, Liang, is more focused on swarm resistance. His huge AoE and boost to damage output makes swarming or even reinforcing a defense to be scary. This is definitely the good option if the enemy controls the field, as even if they aren't intending to swarm the rally and are just standing nearby, the chip damage can still hit and do massive wonders for your trade quality. But both are excellent options for rallies that you can fit to your suited preference. Henry Liang is also a very popular one, although it is probably a little more fragile than Asher with either of the 2. It's also a great option, especially if you are already having both of those maxed. And Henry is just so versatile that it's no wonder that he's got the viability in multiple options. For formations, every single one of these is going to be using Wedge, as it was for Cavalry, as both the standard pairs I mentioned at the start and Henry Liang benefit insanely from wedge formation bonuses and specialty inscriptions. For gear, you will want to be stacking as much health as possible if you can manage it, but overall the actual set when it comes to the Dragon's Breath is excellent on its own, so you can really go to the full 6 set pieces or go to 4 of 6 if you want to go for the Season of Conquest items. Both are excellent options. Some alternatives are used with leadership gear if you want to go for health on the boots, for example, or health on the leg plates. But in any case, it works fairly well. I see a lot more prevalence with the 4 or 6 set piece bonus for the Dragon's Breath overall. But as I said, health is great, defense is good too, and the set bonuses on the Dragon's Breath set are just insane in terms of value because you get 5% health, 3% skill damage, and the attack is take it or leave it, but 4 and 6 set are insane. For accessories, the standard ring and horn are still the best setup for the maximum rage generation and maximum damage output. No matter which pair you're using, those are the best overall to go for. Just too much value to pass up overall. Last, but most certainly not least, is infantry. When it comes to infantry, we have a great position because there's established infantry rallies and new ones that are on the horizon. First, I want to talk about the established players because those are concrete and we know what they are. For that, we have Tariq as the main player. Tariq is super solid, and I imagine he still will be even with Scipio Emilianus. Even if he's not the top dog in the infantry domain, overall, he's still going to be a great option. For Tariq, you'll want to pair him with either Liu Che or Pakal as the most popular, Liu Che being more for damage output, and Pakal being more for swarm resistance. It works really great for Tariq too, because Tariq's bonus to damage is to all damage, so you have a nice little boost to all damage, and then normal damage reduction by the garrison. It's a great counter to normal damage garrisons, such as Gorgo, but it also just pairs well with skill damage or normal damage commanders, which keeps him pretty viable. Of those two, though, I do prefer Pakal just because he's so great at resisting swarm. If the enemy has the field, Tariq Pakal is a good trade machine, as swarming him only makes him more resistant to damage, while also taking nice chunks of damage out on any swarmers because he keeps so much more troop count for longer, and it makes his normal damage output high just through sheer troop count. This is a pair that also does decently enough 1v1, although obviously not as good as Liu Che would 1v1 because of that massive damage factor. Since Pakal is an older commander as well, it makes it ideal for a transitional pair if you are coming back to rallies from being a rally main earlier. But the real infantry meta is going to be centered around Scipio Emilianus, and he's in a position to be an absolute beast in the meta. Huge damage output, great normal damage, which doubles for 1v1 and swarm resist. When it comes to Scipio Emilianus, there are really two options that are most apparent, both of them based around normal damage. You have William Wallace and Liu Che. Of the two, I like William Wallace more in theory, although it will need testing to verify for certain. The boosts William Wallace provides are perfect for the damage-heavy kit, and then between Scipio Emilianus' ability to remove defense and health debuffs, and William Wallace's movement debuff resistance and removal, there's a lot of ways to cleanse debuffs, which provides natural swarm resistance, and makes the heavy stats that they do have more effective as they're not reducible, making for an ideal 1v1 damage output or solid option against swarm in either case. Liu Che is another alternative as well that is more about raw stats and a massive AoE that will make swarming very costly. This is definitely for more of an enemy field control situation, but it might also be great 1v1 once testing is concluded and we have actual concrete information about Scipio Emilianus and William Wallace's kits. For formations, it'll depend on your route. Currently with Tariq, the best option is usually to go wedge or arch, depending on what your secondary damage source is. This is the biggest downside of Tariq, as going arch with Liu Che is great, but you don't get as much value as you would if you were, say, using it on Scipio Emilianus. For Scipio Emilianus, though, you definitely want arch formation to double up on the normal damage commanders and get the most value overall with that. For equipment, you do have some options. You want a minimum 2 out of 6 overall for your set bonuses, but because the infantry set bonuses are so weak, there's a lot more open options. You can go to 4 out of 6, but you don't get as good of a stat because there's a lot of attack on the set pieces for the infantry set. So you'd rather have more health, and the march speed is really only useful till you get to the defense. One option that is very popular is double dipping, going for 2 out of 6 on the leadership gear, on the boots, and on the leg plates to get health on both of them to give you a nice boost of health, which you don't really get in infantry equipment, and giving you a nice little bonus overall to actually get you some stats on the 2 out of 6 set bonus for the leadership as well. For accessories, whether you use Tariq or Scipio Milianus, both will be best using the ring and horn for rage generation and damage. Since the ring does boost all damage dealt, it doesn't matter if it's normal or skill damage. Although you may see some going with Greatest Glory in one of those spots for the 5% normal damage boost to help both 1v1 and against Swarm, but I still recommend Ring and Horn because they are much better overall on the average. While you will have spikes with the Ring and the Horn, and the 5% is just not enough to justify using it over the Ring Horn standard combo. But with that, we will wrap up our discussion on the current rally meta. Please note that this is primarily as a guide of the current meta. It doesn't include the wide range of unique KvK formats that introduce different mechanics, as they may affect rallies and garrisons differently. But let me know what you think. Who's your favorite rally commander? Let me know in the comments. If you want to see me cover another topic, the comments section is a great place to do that as well. Or you can suggest content by joining the Discord using the link in the description. But as always, good luck, fight well, and I will see you on the battlefield.